I'm SP from Better Podcasting, the show dedicated to help make your podcast better. And it is part of the Get a Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other insightful and wonderful geeky shows at GetAGeekNetwork.com.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
This guy gets more airtime than the Kardashians, right?
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's favorite newspaper, the Starling Tribune. No, I am not Stargate Pioneer. I am your acting chief editor, Chris. But don't worry, I do have backup with another reporter this week for episode 236 of the Starling Tribune, starting with Michelle.
I'll never surrender, but I will strategically retreat.
Nice. And just because I'm the acting chief editor, I don't want to miss out on the quote fund, so mine, I thought that was impolitically correct.
I like that one.
Thank you, Mick. This episode of this podcast is recorded live on Thursday, April 11th, 2019, over on Geeks.live. That is the streaming home of the Gonna Geek Network. And this evening, we'll not be discussing Arrow. No. We're on our Legends path right now, so we're talking Legends of Tomorrow, as well as news, interviews, articles, and announcements that have dropped recently that could, and let's be honest, will impact future episodes of Legends, as well as the greater universe. So Flash, Supergirl, Arrow, Black Lightning, potentially Batwoman, potentially a Constantine spinoff. God knows what else they're coming up with.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at GonnaGeek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
Thanks for that, Michelle. Why don't you go ahead and break down this episode of Legends for us?
Sure thing. This episode of Legends is called Tender is the Nate. It's season 4, episode 6. It aired Monday, November 26, 2018. It's directed by Dean Cho, who is a stunt coordinator turned director, has directed 2 episodes of Legends. Written by Phil Klummer. Credits include 13 Legends, 3 Forever, and 12 Chuck. And Matthew Malla. Credits include 11 episodes of Legends.
Nice. We got a pretty solid crew this week. Phil Klemmer's name is coming up all the time on Legends. And remember, I say this every time. I know he's done Chuck, so he has a fond place in my heart. Love that show. Love it. Now, SP would have my hide if we did not talk weekly ratings. I think it's honestly some of his favorite things to discuss, to break down the numbers, figure out what's going on, and it sort of makes sense. He likes numbers. He's a scientist. So let's get into the ratings back in November 2018. So Sunday, November 25th, Supergirl aired its 7th episode. It brought in a rating of 2.10. This is live plus DVR. The next day, Arrow, Season 7, Episode 7. This was the Slabside Redemption. A pretty good episode, based on my recollection. Pulled in a 2.12, actually beating Supergirl. That's a positive sign. Monday, after Arrow, Season 4, Episode 6 of Legends, the episode we're talking about, Tender is the Nate, pulls a 1.76. Followed up on Tuesday with Flash, Season 5, Episode 7. O come all ye thankful, with the leader of the pack, a 3.22. Flash continues to be the big boy on the campus here. And then finally, Tuesday night, Black Lightning, Season 2, Episode 7. The Sange? I don't know if I'm saying that right, because I haven't watched the show yet, so I apologize if I mispronounced that. Pulling in a 1.69. So Arrow pulling in 2nd place back in November. That's a good sign.
Considering this is around the holidays.
Yeah, we're talking after Thanksgiving. So people are coming back from Thanksgiving and trying to get back into the swing of work and stuff like that. So everyone's dead and doesn't want to do anything.
So they let things pile up on the DVR and they relax.
Yep. I bet the +7 day on this really helped for a lot of these episodes, because everyone's just like, oh, holidays, I need a break. I'm just going to sit in front of my TV and veg out. I bet.
Yes.
The reason I bet that is because I did that. I know my own methods. So those were our ratings for last week. SP cannot fire me now that we have broken down the numbers and talked the numbers. So, Michelle, why don't I toss things over to you? Why don't you break down this episode of Legends for us?
Well, the title is Tender is the Nate. And in the episode, we encounter literary figures of, we have Ernest Hemingway and Scott Fitzgerald. Well, the title of the episode is a take on Tender is the Night, which is the last novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, I know Ernest Hemingway is the big literary figure of the episode, but one of the interesting things about this novel, I'm really glad I get to fly my literary flag here, because this is what I got my college degree in.
I'm excited here.
I actually get to do this. Tender is the Night is F. Scott Fitzgerald took the lives of actual people and he changed them to create his novel. Ernest Hemingway wrote this letter to Fitzgerald. I actually have a link in the show notes to it. It's a very infamous letter because F. Scott Fitzgerald wanted to know what Hemingway thought. And one of the biggest points that Hemingway had was basically he accused Fitzgerald of cheating with his material by starting with these real people and then changing them into things that they were not. Hemingway was like, we are who we are. All of our experiences makes us who we are. Those things are authentic. And that's what Fitzgerald should have written. He shouldn't have just taken real people and changed them. If he wanted to write fiction, he should have just made up fictional characters instead of changing these real life people into these, fictional things. And in the episode, we have this idea of masculinity. Hank wants Nate to be this macho, his version of masculinity, and Nate just wants to be Nate. It's this whole idea of just letting Nate be his authentic self. It's that criticism Hemingway had of Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald did not let those characters be their authentic selves. And, that's really what this episode's about. I mean, it really didn't matter what the creature was or anything. At the heart of this is really Hank learning that what Nate has done, all those, degrees that he's gotten in history and looking at things from this quote unquote, non-masculine way of things is actually valid.
Certainly went into the deep dive on it.
I couldn't help it. I like it. 1927, Paris. The letter from Hemingway was written in 1934, so it's not too far away. We actually run into the Fitzgeralds. We have Salvador Dali. So my literary nerd was just, oh my goodness. I love this episode on so many levels. I had to do the deep dive. Sorry.
It's part of what Legends can do is play with all sorts of things because it deals with time travel and now supernatural monsters. So if you can mix mash all that together, you can put in whatever themes you want.
Exactly. Because we have Hank wanting to justify all this money. And I love how he's going through the budget of the Legends, all this money for costumes. I guess Gideon needs materials. I guess they actually have to buy things for Gideon to make outfits or something. And then there's money for condiments and everything.
So I'm starting to think Gideon's like a 3D printer. She can make all of this stuff, but she needs like the raw material of some kind to transform it into. So I guess they're just like 3D printing all of their costumes, for lack of a better term.
Yes. And I love how Gideon was always like, it's 7 if you count me. It's 5 if you count me. It is true. Gideon is a true member of the team.
Exactly. Her physical body, it's the ship. The ship is involved in everything. And they've certainly made use of Gideon's mind many times throughout this series across different captains and different crews.
Yes. And when it comes to Hank and Nate, so I'm a lady. I'm a woman. Well, I'm not really a lady, whatever, but I'm a woman. So I really never had that whole father-son thing going on. Like, Chris, do you anyway identify with the dynamic between Hank and Nate?
A bit. I mean, fathers and sons, they always have to kind of find their footing when it comes to some things. And I think I was lucky that my dad and I understand each other fairly well. And while we're similar in many regards, we're not the same person. We have different tastes and different feelings on things. So I don't feel like I've had that disconnect like Nate had where we don't understand each other and things like that. It's more, we don't always see eye to eye. Now, Nate's got both. They don't understand each other and they don't see eye to eye a lot of the time, it seems like.
And I really like Nate's idea of, look, why don't you just come along and see what the legends do? And how funny was it for the team trying to get Nate not to go to the lab?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was one of my favorite parts was them like, oh, no, you should go check out this room. And he's like, and Nate's like, come on, the lab's the cool stuff. Why aren't we doing this?
Because finally, Nate had to meet Charlie.
And that was awkward. I mean, you feel bad for him because the look on his face, he's like, oh my God, Amaya's back. I've missed her so much. And you're just like, no. This is a train wreck. This is a train wreck. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because Charlie's got a bit of an attitude, which is entertaining to us. But I don't think she's going to take too kindly to someone like being, oh my God, you're back. I love you. And be like, who the hell are you?
And no, she decks him. I thought that was appropriate.
It certainly was.
And then we got that whole notion of being hit by a girl. Not only did Hank mention that, but Hemingway mentioned that. And that gets us to our, time travel. 1927 Paris. Chris, have you ever met one of your idols and just completely geeked out?
When I was a kid, so let's go like third or fourth grade, I went to a baseball clinic where one of my favorite baseball players, and most people are probably not going to know his name, he's the second baseman of the Colorado Rockies by the name of Jason Bates, was doing a hitter's clinic. And I completely and totally geeked out over it. It was like geeking out for the week ahead of time. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going to happen. This is so cool. And got frozen for a second when I met the guy and things like that. And kudos to him. He was incredibly nice to a kid like me who's just like, oh my God, you're my idol, who's freaking out. So I've sort of been there. Yeah.
In a way, it was adorable seeing Hank, out of all the people to geek out about. I mean, Hemingway, for those of you who may not be familiar with Ernest Hemingway, not only was, he's an author, but he was an infamous hunter. The whole alcohol, cigars, get the guns, go kill some things, and then get some cigars, drink some alcohol, and write stuff. So it was very interesting that Hank it makes sense considering Hank's view of masculinity that Hemingway would be one of his favorites.
Right. And it was just so neat to see Hank, who's been kind of this hard ass, who's not really geeking out over all this crazy stuff he's seen, be it mystical creatures, superpowers, and things like that. None of that really phases him, but he sees his idol there, and he's like, "Oh my God!" He's acting like a little kid and stuff like that. And you're like, so you do have that spark of joy that you can find in this. Because let's be honest, one thing about Legends is they always find a little spark of joy in something. Someone gets excited by it, and we hadn't seen what it was that would turn the ignition, for lack of a better term, for Hank.
And of course, Hank violates the first rule by telling Hemingway, basically, hey, we're here hunting a creature.
That was not smart, but they sort of get away with it. I mean, they've gotten a little lax on some of that stuff right now. And I guess the assumption is things go crazy, so people aren't quite going to remember little details like that. When like, oh my God, there's a Minotaur. Because I don't think they're flashy thinging people. Or if they did, it's just happening behind the scenes.
Because the Minotaur is in the catacombs, and Paris, the catacombs under Paris are famous, especially for people getting lost. You don't want to go in there alone. Like in real life, they just went in. In real life, if you go to Paris and you see an entrance to the catacombs, don't just go in there. They are elaborate, and again, people have gotten lost and never seen again.
Right.
So that was something about how they just went right on in. But what did you think of that first encounter with Mick, Hank, Nate, Sarah with the Minotaur?
obviously not realizing they might be in a little over their head at first. I like how Sarah's just like, the hell with this. I'm going in. I'm starting this fight and going in there and dodging axe blows and stuff like that. And everyone else just kind of being like, well, let's let her fight while we try and shoot, and failing miserably. Hank, the worst of all, is like, I'm going to shoot him, and walking up there and getting cleaved in twain. I like that phrase almost.
Yeah, Hemingway shoots. Minotaur is just like, whatever.
Cool
and
story,
I love
bro.
that. Yeah, I love that whole, when Hemingway looks at Sarah, have you ever handled a gun before?
That was a good one.
And then, of course, that's where we get the line, Hemingway is like, we'll strategically retreat. Because Sarah, here she is, she's the captain, and going, we need a plan.
Right.
And she's right.
Very much so.
Eventually, they actually do get a plan, and that takes us to the cafe encounter. Chris, why don't you discuss the cafe encounter?
So the plan here is they're going to lull the Minotaur to sleep, because then no people get hurt, the Minotaur doesn't get hurt, and Nate's going to play a song on a ukulele or whatever. I don't think it's actually a ukulele, but it looks close enough, whatever it is. So they go to the cafe to confront the Minotaur, and Constantine has the female Minotaur Musk to lure him to them. Nate begins to play his music. The Minotaur begins to fall asleep. And then Hemingway decides he wants to shoot the Minotaur while it's going down. Sarah stops him. The gun fires. She punches him, but it's enough to break everything up. And the Minotaur goes on a rampage, just taking everyone out until it's eventually down to Nate in hand-to-hand combat with a Minotaur. And his father, who's cheering him on, rooting for his son, realizes he needs to help his son because the Minotaur is choking him. Nate can't stay steeled up, so he grabs a guitar and sings James Taylor and lulls the Minotaur to sleep. It's so fun.
I'm thinking that do you think that's him actually singing?
I thought it might be. Now, I haven't found a way to go back and confirm that, and I couldn't find anything online just in a casual browsing to see if it was. It might be something worth we could tweet to the Legends Writers Room or something like that.
Because I really hope it was.
I do too. That would make it so much better. It was good already, but just imagine if it's just like, yeah, I like to sing. They're like, we're going to write that into the show this week.
That part was great, again, and then finally Hank actually sees value in what the Legends do, actually understands that, Nate does what he does and it has value.
Yes. There's value to what the Legends do, and the cost is kind of justified because they have to do the wild and crazy crap, basically. Their plans have always just been like pie in the sky, craziness, let's see if this sticks, and it sort of does.
Our other little, B story has to deal with the Time Bureau, and it's Mona's first day at work.
Which is delightful.
And Mona is noticing that a plain cell is, inhumane. She sees, the creature and is like, okay, to make this creature comfortable, we should have, a palm tree and some rocks. And Ava is like, they are prisoners.
Right.
That's it. Then Mona gets a love letter from Ray to Nora and tries to deliver it. Things go wrong. Ava comes in.
Nora's having none of it. We will learn why later.
And then the three of them get trapped together.
Which is entertaining as all.
And it's Ava's birthday.
This is true, and Sarah had gone in there to wish her a happy birthday earlier in the day. I now understand that meme that appeared online around this time, because like I've said before, I'm only watching the Legends episodes as we record them. So now I understand the meme that was made, and I'm like, oh.
Which meme was that?
The one with her, with the trench coat, just, and there were all sorts of memes to express shock, which is Katie Lotz in that trench coat with what's underneath it. And I was like, now I understand where this picture came from that everyone's posting.
Yes, it was Very nice.
I think my exact words were, damn. And my fiance had come in at the time, was sitting down in the chair and looked up and goes, damn.
Yeah. Even I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fun little B story. This whole comparing childhood stories.
Yeah. Who has the most traumatic childhood? And go.
I'm a clone. My father sold me to a demon.
Yeah, it's bad all across.
But they end up having cake and wine. And then Mona made an interesting statement. She said that those two, Ava and Nora, were cooler than Gillian Anderson.
I like it. It works for me. I'm a child of the right era to get it.
Oh, I get it too. But so for me, that's a very strong statement.
It is.
Because Gillian Anderson
was and still is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, she's a goat. Come on. She really is.
I completely agree.
And she's timeless and she will always still be amazing. And it was just really interesting for the writers to like make that comparison. I'm just like, yeah, bring in, and also, Sarah Lance as well. I would have to say so. Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's a nice little aside. Everyone's kind of seeing life from everyone else's perspective. You see Ava kind of realize, well, maybe Nora's not as bad as I thought. She did kind of get pulled and trapped into something and kind of didn't know better, and there was no way out.
And it does make people realize that, a little humanity in the containment units, not a bad idea.
Yep, because we find out at the end that she lets Mona decorate I can't remember which mystical creature's room that is.
Konami.
Yeah, she lets her decorate his room in a way that is pleasing to him, so he's not just trapped in a featureless cell, and she's asking if she can go scratch his belly. And she lets Nora gives a letter to Mona to give to Ray, because we're passing notes right now, and Ava's okay with it and says, you should make sure he gets that note. So, yes, while they're being detained, they're not being inhumane with them. They're realizing, hey, there's more to it. And she even gives Nora the hope of, yes, this is what your life is now, but it doesn't have to be that.
And we get our first appearance. Last year, I wanted a Bebo. This year, I want a copy of Uncaged Desire by Rebecca Silver.
Oh, I didn't even make the connection. I should have. Oh, man, that was bad on me. That's awesome.
You didn't realize that's Mick's book?
I'm fired.
That's okay. You are watching these as they come out. That's all right. But I want a copy of that book, don't you?
I imagine Comic-Con time frame, there might be something like that out there. It would not surprise me if that's one of the weird things they have at the booth.
I want a Bebo. This is what I want to do. I want to snuggle up with a Bebo and a copy of Uncaged Desire. That would make me happy.
That sounds delightful.
Is there anything else about the episode you wanted to talk about?
I enjoyed the whole shtick. They were going to go check out the library, and Nate's like, yeah, this is where I do so much work. And it's John Constantine naked doing yoga in the library and completely unfazed by the fact there's company. Meanwhile, everyone else is like, hey, put some clothes on. I love it. It just is perfect for the Constantine character. He straight up just doesn't care. He's got no modesty.
Oh, no.
No.
And Nate makes the decision to actually stay with the Time Bureau.
I sort of get why he would do that right now, because he's kind of redefining his relationship with his father. He can still help out with things as it's needed, but he kind of feels like he fits in the world again. He's not running away from his problems, and there's some resolution for his personal life going on. So I get why he might want to stay behind now. And it also originally got him away from memories of Amaya and things like that, which he seems to have been able to put most behind him at the end of this episode. He comments to Sarah, it's kind of surprising to realize that these are just memories now. and moving past things. So that's nice. He's moving forward with his life, and he's found a bit of a different place, which is still working with the Legends, but not directly there, just with the Time Bureau. I like it. It's evolution of the character.
And he got a pizza party before he got to go.
That's the important thing. He got pizza and beverages and tried to pitch his, what was it, Pinata Fridays, which sound delightful, by the way.
But then Gideon would have to make piñatas.
Well, I mean, they could just buy them in 2018.
True. They could.
All they need to do is just step through the time portal or whatever and be like, hey, I need a piñatas. Let's go to this local party store or whatever the right term is for it.
Do piñatas come pre-filled?
I think it depends on where you go. Whenever I've bought piñatas, they were not pre-filled, but there was like a little hole that was already cut in it to fill with candy, and there was like a little latch you could put over it so that you couldn't see said hole. But I've bought a whopping 2 piñatas in my entire life, I think.
I have bought 0 piñatas in my life.
Piñatas were fun party toys. There might have been a college party that involved a piñata. I honestly don't remember. I have vague memories of there being a piñata there, but it's been years.
And alcohol?
Well, it was a college party.
Again, Legends is such a fun show. I love being able just to kick back and let them take me on a ride. It's amazing. It's fun. It's still really my favorite CW DC show.
Me too. Just because I know I'm going to have fun. I don't have to think really hard about a lot of things. I just get to enjoy some fun fights, some fun banter, and just weird stuff happening. I'm totally on board with it.
Now, while Legends might be our favorite, another favorite is, of course, our flagship show, which is Arrow. Arrow comes back next week at a new time. So on the 15th of April, it's going to be Legends at 8 p.m., Arrow at 9 p.m. Just want everyone to know and be clear about that.
Just be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. So Arrow's episode is going to be Lost Canary, Season 7, Episode 18. It will air Monday, April 15, 2019. After being accused of murder and having her criminal past exposed, Laurel goes full Black Siren and teams up with an old criminal acquaintance, Shadow Thief, to go on a crime spree around Star City. While Dinah aims to bring Laurel in, Felicity refuses to give up on her friend and tries everything to get through to her, even summoning Sarah Lance for help. However, Laura rebuffs all of her efforts, forcing the former friends to face off against each other. Director is Kristen Wendell, and writers Jill Blankenship and Elisa Delson.
This one's gonna be fun.
Indeed.
I can't wait. Live from the Starling Tribune main news desk on floor 52 of Starling Tribune Tower, it's our weekly news roundup with Chief News Anchor Michelle Ely. And now, I throw things over to Michelle Ely.
Thanks, Chris. There's not a lot of news. The big news item is that Arrow has wrapped production on Season 7.
Woo!
Yeah, days after the season's wrap party and a day after series regular Emily Breck-Rickards filmed what could be her last ever episode of the show, Arrow star Stephen Amell has confirmed that the show has wrapped production on its 7th season. In a simple tweet without much at ceremony, Amell tweeted 7 down, 1 to go.
Kind of like more like a third to go. Well, maybe a little more. Somewhere between a third and a half.
Well, let's see. There's usually 22 episodes in a season. They're doing 10, so half.
Yeah, about half. Okay, so half to go. Sorry,
Yeah.
Technicality. I like to nitpick things.
But yeah, it's nice to know it's officially wrapped. The season finale, I think, is supposed to be the 13th of May.
I believe so, yes.
So it does make sense that they have finally, wrapped production now. Gives them a couple months to put the nice polish on everything, all the special effects, all the editing, any sort of ADR that they need to do.
If there's definitely polish time, and in the case of something catastrophic, there's enough time to bring a few folks back for reshoots if you really had to. But it's TV, so that doesn't happen very often.
I know, and we are getting to, like we're going to talk about episode 18. There's 22. So we're talking, 18, 19, 20. Last, 6 episodes?
Yeah, we're on the home stretch right now, guys. Home stretch. About a month and a half left of new Arrow episodes coming from us.
18, 19, 20. Oh, 5 episodes. Ooh.
So a little over a month. I'm
Yeah,
great with math tonight, guys. Great.
Yeah. So yeah, because it's going to be Arrow straight through.
I'm excited.
Me too, because I have loved this season.
It has had a few dips, but not terribly so. It has been enjoyable.
Yeah, Beth Schwartz has done an amazing job.
I agree with you.
That's all that I have for the news. Now, the Starling Tribune is part of a big podcasting network called the GonnaGeek.com network. Chris, can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Like Michelle mentioned, we are part of the Gonna Geek Network. There's over 20 different podcasts on the network that cover a variety of things, be it television shows like us. We talk about Arrow, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. talks about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the MCU, for instance, video game podcasts, tabletop gaming podcasts, geek culture. There's all sorts of stuff there. I wish I could tell you about every show on the network, but if I did, that would basically be a show all by itself, and nobody wants to hear me talk about a bunch of stuff by myself like that. But what I can do is tell you about one show on the network and say, hey, you guys should go check this out, and let's talk about the Intellectual Podcast, episode 6.09, Linda Shapes. David and Whitney chat with Linda Shapes about her 45-year career in film, doing makeup, and so much more. So if the makeup effects and special effects kind of thing that's your wheelhouse, you should go check it out. Like, I love Face Off and things like that. So it's fascinating to me. So I will be checking this out on my commute to work tomorrow, probably. It is well worth seeing. That being said, though, folks, it is time for us to start wrapping this thing up. So a big thank you to our participants over in the chat room at geeks.live, where we stream this live. Also, a big thank you to people who catch the replay. You can download the audio version over at starlingtribune.com or catch the YouTube replay at youtube.com/GonnaGeek. But don't forget, if you have an Amazon device, I won't say what the name of that is because I'll trigger it for everyone listening. You can enable our podcast as a skill. Don't forget, we also have a Discord server you can find at GonnaGeek.com/Discord, where you can come and join in with the cast of the Starling Tribune, any other podcast, or just fans of the Gonna Geek Network, chatting about all sorts of geeky things. So come on over, talk geeky with us. And don't forget, finally, you can catch us live as we record over on Geeks.live, the official streaming home of the Gonna Geek Network, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 4:30 p.m. Pacific every Thursday.
We would love to hear from you. We're the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this brings us to the end of another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag, will Gideon ever say Hoss? I got a shtick.
Yes, you do. I did not know it was going to make it here.
I was trying to figure out how to fit it in here. I didn't know how.
Oh, and you did. That was good.
I'll take what I can get.
And I am at Michelle Ely, signing off with hashtag cake, wine, and uncaged desire. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.